Welcome to the Cotswolds. Located in southeast England, the Cotswolds is home to charming golden villages, thatched cottages, deep pitched roofs topped with heavy stone tiles, wool churches and honey-coloured mansions set amongst rolling hills and valleys and shallow streams. The Cotswolds is simply delightful, and in fact in 1966 the Cotswolds was designated as an AONB, or an Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty. Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm the Intrepid Guide, your guide to languages and travel. And if you haven't already done so, support this channel by clicking the subscribe button and you'll receive a notification when I post my next video. The Cotswolds span roughly 40 kilometres across and 140 kilometres long, from just south of Stratford-upon-Avon in the north to Bath in the south. Now, with such a large area to cover, it can be tricky to decide where to go. So join me as I take you to the most enchanting villages and points of interest as we travel from north to south throughout the Cotswolds. So without further ado, here are the absolute best things to do in the Cotswolds. Follow me. Castle Combe is a fairy tale-like English village and often called the prettiest village in England. This medieval settlement has barely changed in 500 years. The village takes its name from the 12th century castle which stood about 500 metres north of this area. The word combe is an Old English term for a short valley or a hollow in a hillside or coastline. In Castle Combe you'll find Dower House dating from the late 17th century and is now a Grade 2 listed building. And in the heart of the village is the 14th century Market Cross, which was erected when the privilege to hold a weekly market in Castle Combe was granted. The Market Cross stands where the three principal streets of the lower village converge. Also here is St Andrew's Church, which dates from the 13th century and houses a faceless clock, which is said to be one of the oldest working clocks in the country. While it's difficult to be absolutely certain as to the origins of its name, there are several plausible explanations why it's called the Cotswolds. The most commonly accepted is that cot means sheep enclosure and wolds means hills or rolling hills. So the Cotswolds literally means sheep enclosure in rolling hillsides. This is perhaps the most plausible explanation because it was here during the Middle Ages that they bred sheep known as the Cotswolds lion, and it played a key role in establishing a prosperous wool trade across Europe. The most successful era of the wool trade was between 1250 and 1350, with much of the wool being sold to Italian merchants. Wealthy merchants and farmers of the time subsequently donated much of their earnings to finance churches, believing that their generosity would ensure a place for them in heaven. These churches are known as wool churches and are found throughout the Cotswolds. Built in the 14th century, Victorian designer William Morris described Bibury as the most beautiful village in England. The most famous view of Bibury is this row of 14th century cottages known as Arlington Row, originally built as a monastic wool store. Later in the 17th century, it was converted into a row of weavers' cottages. They stand at the foot of Awkward Hill, locally pronounced Awkward Hill, and now belong to the National Trust. In the 1970s, they merged some of the cottages to provide more comfortable accommodation for the 21st century. At the east end of Bibury Village, you'll find the Grade 1 listed St Mary's, with Gothic windows, Saxon elements surviving above the chancel arch, and a 15th century timber ceiling. Burford is a beautiful old Cotswolds town. Its high street gently slopes from the high wolds, where you have stunning views over the open countryside down to the River Windrush. Burford was the site of a fortified ford in Anglo-Saxon times, and the town grew to be an important crossroads and a very wealthy wool town. Standing on two pillars is the Tudor timbered frame Tollsey building. Its primary function was to collect tolls from the market traders of the time. Located on the corner of Sheep and Market Street, it meant that it could ensure that no unauthorised access to the market was made and that everyone paid their tolls, hence the name Tollsey. Nowadays, the top floor is used by local council for its local meetings. Located right across the road from the Tollsey is the oldest pharmacy in England, which has existed here since 1734. Bourton-on-the-Water is as picturesque as it sounds. This riverside village is flanked by long, wide, lush greens lined with Jacobean and Georgian facades made from honey-coloured Cotswold stone. 5 low-arch stone bridges cross the River Windrush, which flows through this charming village, nicknamed the Venice of the Cotswolds, and it's not difficult to see why. Whilst you're here, head over to the model village, where you can see a 1/9 scale replica of this beautiful Cotswold village. It was built between 1936 and 1940, and this mini village is a perfect reproduction of Bourton-on-the-Water at the time that it was created, even down to its shop fronts, gardens, trees, and even a tiny version of the River Windrush. Other highlights include the Birdland Park, home to over 500 birds, including flamingos, pelicans and penguins, and the Cotswolds Motoring Museum and Toy Collection, where you can take a journey through time as you explore the extensive collection of vintage cars and see the original Brum from the children's TV series. The idyllic twin villages of Upper and Lower Slaughter are a must-see, and they hug the banks of the River Eye, also known as the Slaughter Brook or the Eye Brook. Now, what makes the Slaughters so special is that they've remained completely unchanged for over a century. And the name of these two postcard perfect villages might sound alarming at first, but it actually comes from the Anglo-Saxon word slaughter, which means marshy place or muddy place. And it's a cognate of slow. Now, it's no longer that muddy mess that you may have imagined, but it's one of the best places in the Cotswolds to enjoy a romantic village scenery. So let's take a look around. One of the main sights to see here in Upper Slaughter is St Peter's Church. Now, there has been a church on this location since the 12th century, and the building that you see today was mainly restored in 1877, but inside, don't miss the 12th century carvings on the tower arch. There is also the Tudor brasses and the 17th century memorial. Now, the St Peter's Church is set in an incredibly beautiful location, so take your time to wander around the grounds and spot some of the idyllic vantage points from the churchyard. The village of Upper Slaughter straddles the River Eye, flowing between lush green banks crossed by quaint old bridges, just like this one here. Now, opposite one of these tiny bridges is a Methodist church, which dates back to 1865, but it is now used as a pottery. The largest business in Upper Slaughter is Lords of the Manor Hotel. This building dates to 1649 and has been a hotel since the 1960s. The Slaughter family purchased the manor from Henry VIII and was last occupied by Ferdinando Tracy Travell. Now, Travell's portrait still hangs in the first floor landing, and a coat of arms is incorporated into the decoration of the drawing room fireplace. So why not spoil yourself and stay here? If you can't afford to stay the night, then maybe you can just stay for afternoon tea. Lower Slaughter is the real gem of the two villages, and it's here that the River Eye flows just below water level and snakes its way through this village of Honeystone Cotswold cottages. So take a leisurely stroll along the flowery footpaths as you take in the stunning surroundings and enjoy the slower country life. Lower Slaughter has been inhabited for over 1,000 years, and in fact, in the Domesday Book entry, the village name was called Slostra. Located at the west end of Lower Slaughter is a 19th century flour mill, which closed its doors in 1958. Attached to the mill is a still working water wheel and a tall chimney which created additional steam power. The red brick chimney creates a bold contrast to the rest of the village with its honey-coloured buildings made from traditional Cotswold stone. The mill was originally part of Lower Slaughter Manor, which was built in 1658 for the High Sheriff of Gloucestershire. The manor is now a grand country house hotel where you can enjoy a luxurious stay. Now, today the old mill is home to the Lower Slaughter Museum, where you can learn about the history of bread making and the internal workings of the mill. So make sure you head in when you come and visit Lower Slaughter. Broadway is a large village and civil parish, sometimes referred to as the Jewel of the Cotswolds. Located at the foot of a steep escarpment, High Street Broadway is named for its chestnut-lined High Street and a wide thoroughfare that previously formed part of the road linking London and Wales via Worcester. The High Street is still flanked by ex-coaching inns, honeycombed Cotswold limestone buildings, many dating from the 16th century, setting back behind the broad grass verges. Behind me, standing 1,024 feet above sea level, is the Broadway Tower, an iconic little folly castle built in 1798. The castle was built for Lady Coventry between 1798 and 1799. Now, the tower was built on a beacon hill where beacons were lit on special occasions, and Lady Coventry wondered whether a beacon on this hill could be seen from her house in Worcester, which is about 20 miles away or 35 kilometres. So she sponsored for the construction of the folly to be built to find out if she could indeed see the castle, and she could. There are incredible views on all sides of the tower, but if you want to see a little bit more, you can take the 71 steps up to the roof of the Broadway Tower for even more incredible views. The Rollright stones are a complex of 3 Neolithic and Bronze Age megalithic monuments, each with their own specific purpose. During the period when the 3 monuments were erected, there was a continuous tradition of ritual behaviour on this sacred ground from between the 4th and the 2nd millennium BCE. The first to be constructed was the Whispering Knights, which date to early to middle Neolithic period, and it was likely to be used as a place of burial. This was followed by the King's Men, a stone circle which you see behind me, that was constructed in the late Neolithic or early Bronze Age era and has either a trade-based or a ritual connection. The third monument, the King's Stone, is a single monolith. Although its construction has not been dated, many archaeologists believe that it was a Bronze Age grave marker. With a history spanning over 1,000 years, Doubly Castle is home to grand banqueting halls, 10 magnificent award-winning gardens, making it one of the best attractions and definitely one of the best things to do here in the Cotswolds. Doubly Castle has had many owners during its lifetime, including the last of King Henry VIII's wives, Catherine Parr, who lived and died at the castle, and was also frequented by 4 of England's queens. The centrepiece of Doubly Castle is the Queen's Garden, so named because no fewer than 4 of England's queens, including Anne Boleyn, Catherine Parr, Lady Jane Grey, who was queen for 9 days, and Elizabeth I, once walked upon the original Tudor parterre. It is also the only private castle in England to have a queen buried within its grounds. That is, of course, Catherine Parr, who was the last of King Henry VIII's 6 wives and the only one who survived. The Church of St Barnabas in this picturesque village of SNOWSHILL is also the filming location of where Bridget Jones got married. Turkey curry, anyone? Also located nearby is the Cotswolds Lavender Farm and the SNOWSHILL Manor, which is a 16th century country house containing thousands of objects from its previous owner, Charles Paget Wade, who gave the house to the National Trust in 1951. And you can expect to see everything inside, from old bicycles, toys, instruments, and even 26 suits of Japanese samurai armour. It's an incredible collection, you have to check it out, as well as the gardens. STOW-ON-THE-WOLD is a charming and quintessentially English historic town located in the heart of the Cotswolds. Once an ancient wool town, STOW-ON-THE-WOLD is situated near the Fosse Way, which was an ancient Roman road that linked Exeter in the southwest to Lincoln in the northeast. STOW-ON-THE-WOLD's unusual sounding name isn't so strange once you break it down. So during Saxon times, it was believed that a missionary by the name of Edward lived as a hermit at a well located in the southern part of town. And over time, this gave rise to the town's first name, St Edward's Stow, or Holy Place. The Old English word stow means place, spot, or locality, and the term wold simply means hill or rolling hill. So put together, STOW-ON-THE-WOLD literally means holy place on the hill. The heart of STOW-ON-THE-WOLD is its large market square, once the centre of the town's wool trading past, which could hold up to 20,000 sheep ready for sale. Now today, Market Square is lined with elegant buildings and a range of antique shops, art galleries and gift shops. After a spot of shopping, take your time to wander around the market square, soaking in all the details of the town's past. At one end stands the town stocks, which date from the 15th century, and they stand just right behind me, and are shaded by a lovely old elm tree. At the opposite end of the square, you'll find the ancient market cross, which was erected as a symbolic reminder to traders of medieval times to deal honestly and fairly. Located on the west side of the market square is the Crooked House, which was built in 1450, and on the southern end is the King's Arms, where Charles I is said to have stayed during his visit. It was also here in Market Square that the last important battle of the Civil War took place. On the 21st of March 1646, the Parliamentary Army overwhelmed the Royalist Army, which resulted in them fleeing the field. They retreated back into the streets of Stowe in what resulted in a bloody massacre and the eventual surrender. The wounded were laid in Digbeth Street, and as the legend goes, ducks were seen swimming in the blood, and some even claim that that's how Digbeth Street got its name, after duck bath. In memory of those who fought and died at this time, you can see a memorial stone in St Edward's Churchyard. This Grade 1 listed building is amongst the highest architectural category thanks to the buttresses, its stained glass windows and churchyard, but perhaps its most famous feature is this door that you see right behind me, framed by two ancient yew trees, and it is said to be the inspiration for J.R.R. Tolkien's Doors into Moria, featured in Lord of the Rings. So you gotta check it out when you come and visit. Called the Queen of the Cotswolds, PAINSWICK is a gorgeous town of steeply winding streets with ancient buildings jostling for space. While you're here, don't miss taking a wander down Bisley Street, flanked by mostly 14th century buildings, and here at St Mary's Church, where the spire dominates the village skyline. Take your time to wander through the churchyard, where 99 yew trees surround a collection of 17th and 18th century table tombs. And as the legend goes, there are exactly 99 yew trees, and the devil himself brings death every time someone tries to plant the 100th tree. Other attractions in PAINSWICK include the Rococo Garden, which is a short walk from the centre. It was designed as a flamboyant garden in the mid-1700s, and it is now home to a world-renowned collection of snowdrops. Often claimed as the Cotswolds' most royal village, with the estates of Prince Charles and Princess Anne located nearby, TETBURY is a charming town full of medieval cottages, old townhouses and Georgian buildings. TETBURY is a historic wool town, with many of the wool merchants' houses remaining the same as they were in the 16th and 17th centuries, during the height of the town's prosperity from the wool trade. For centuries, the Grade 1 listed 17th century market house has been the hub of the town, and there are markets that are held here every Wednesday and Saturday. Dominating the skyline of TETBURY is the parish church of St Mary's, with one of the tallest and most elegant spires that you'll find in the UK. The Chipping, which is now a car park, means market, and for centuries was the site of the mop fairs, where local farmhands, labourers and domestic staff offered themselves for employment. The cobbled Chipping Steps, where I'm standing now, is flanked by weavers' cottages, and they climb from Lower TETBURY to the Chipping, where you'll find some of the most iconic views of the town. The Police Museum is located in the old courthouse, where you'll find the world-renowned Alex Nichols collection of handcuffs and restraints, together with Gloucester policing memorabilia. Visit one place in the Cotswolds, then this should be it. Chipping CAMPDEN is a town of Jacobean architecture, fascinating history and natural beauty, and lots of lovely tea houses and places to sleep and eat. Chipping CAMPDEN is an Anglo-Saxon name. Camp means settlement, den means valley, and Chipping refers to the market it was awarded. When you visit Chipping, make sure you go to the Wool Church, as well as visit the historic marketplace that dates all the way back to the 17th century. Located in Woodstock, Blenheim Palace is a stunning Baroque UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of Britain's greatest stately homes. Blenheim Palace was gifted by Queen Anne to John Churchill, Duke of Marlborough, in thanks for defeating the French at the 1704 Battle of Blenheim, a small town in Bavaria. It's also the birthplace of Sir Winston Churchill, who was the grandson of the 7th Duke and the cousin of the 9th. Churchill was born here in Blenheim Palace in 1874 and is buried in the parish church in Bladden, about 1.5 miles south from here. Blenheim Palace is open to the public, so you must come and visit. A few of the highlights include the Great Hall, featuring images of the 1st Duke, the State Dining Room, and the magnificent Long Library. Located in the extensive park grounds surrounding Blenheim Palace is a majestic 300-year-old cedar of Lebanon tree. Towering 55 feet tall and 20 feet in diameter, it's known as the Harry Potter tree because this is where part of Order of the Phoenix was filmed. So if you're a Harry Potter fan, you must come and visit the park grounds at Blenheim Palace. Travellers have been visiting Moreton-on-Marsh for some 1700 years. This once important coaching station and principal market town is an excellent entry point when visiting the Cotswolds, thanks to its direct trains from London, Oxford and Worcester. Its high street is lined with several historically important buildings dating from the 17th and 18th centuries, including the White Hart Royal Hotel, where King Charles took shelter during the Civil War. Also located on the high street is the 16th century curfew tower. This is one of the oldest structures in Moreton-in-Marsh, and each night the bell was sounded up until 1860 to remind people of the risk of fire at night. It was also used as a lockup for local drunks and minor criminals for much of its history. Fans of Lord of the Rings won't want to pass up having a pint at the Bell Inn. Now this is a traditional coaching inn considered to be the inspiration for the Prancing Pony in Middle-earth's most famous pub in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. In fact, the inn was presented with a special print by a branch of the J.R.R. Tolkien Society. Tolkien describes the pub as having 3 stories and an entrance via a courtyard, and describes the fictional town of Bree as having very similar characteristics to Moreton-in-Marsh. Considering the size of the Cotswolds, it's best to explore the region by car. Trains and local buses are great for moving between towns, but for accessing specific points in the countryside, it can be a real challenge. Back roads are quiet and wonderfully scenic, but in summer the main roads can get busy with holiday traffic. The Cotswolds is the busiest in summer, so travelling out of peak season is highly recommended. Hotels and B&Bs also drop their prices, and car rental costs and fuel do lower a little bit. In autumn or fall, the Cotswolds is simply stunning with its colourful leaves, and in winter you can look forward to cosy log fires and snow-covered gardens. Well, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this guide to the best things to do in the Cotswolds. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. In the meantime, please support this channel by clicking the subscribe button and leaving a nice big thumbs up, and turn on those notifications so you get an alert when I share my next video. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.
Tell me what did you want?